so that they can have those links. Okay, so the next part of the presentation is going to be how to take these requisitions. So you as PeopleSoft requesters, you get notifications when carts get assigned to you, and you will take those carts and pull them into PeopleSoft and create requisitions. So I'm going to run through that process, how to do it. I'm going to walk through how to take how to modify the default chart fields, how to do the review and submit, run budget checking on the requisition, and then we'll walk through how to route the requisition for approval, go through the approval process, and for that from both the work list and the approval page, and then we'll stage the requisition and turn it into a purchase order. We'll go ahead and log in to PeopleSoft, to the training environment. So my requester ID that I'm going to log in is going to be THudson01. So I'll go to eProcurement, create requisition. I'll go to the Add Items and Services page, the Web tab, and then I'll click on the Georgia Virtual Catalog. This is basically, I'm in PeopleSoft, it's going to open up the SciQuest application within PeopleSoft. Okay, so sometimes we'll call it, Team Georgia Marketplace is the branding name of it. Also, you'll hear it called the SciQuest application. It's basically just where all the carts are created. And you'll notice that just like earlier when I was showing how carts get assigned to people, it works the same way. This cart has just been actually assigned to your PeopleSoft user ID. So I'll go underneath Action Items and look at the carts that are assigned to me, and I have the two different carts. So you'll notice I've still got a PeopleSoft menu up on the left. So I'm just going to take this first cart and select it. I can take a look. I'll see who the supplier is. If I want to go out to the website, I can click on the link and see a picture of the item. And then I click on the Proceed to Checkout. I've got the cart pulled up. Now, if I see a problem with this cart and I need it, and let's say they forgot an attachment or they forgot something on the cart that needs to be modified, then you don't want to submit it into PeopleSoft if it's missing information. Okay? You can assign the cart back to someone else. You can return the cart to the original shopper. Okay? But once the cart has everything you need, like let's say, for example, I can come in and I want to look at the history of the cart, make sure it's gone through, it's been assigned to the correct people. So it went from State Shopper 1 to State Approver to me, from and to. Okay, and I can see all of the notes that got put on the cart. Okay, I can take this cart if it needs to go to someone else and assign it to them as well. If you're a PeopleSoft person, you could usually you may not have a list of people, but you can search for someone to assign it to. Okay, but once the cart is ready, if I have an attachment that I need to pull down, and that's mainly for going to be on your this is a statewide contracted cart, but if I have an attachment, I could go ahead and open it up and download it because it's not going to pass the attachment from the cart over into PeopleSoft. It will pass these comments that got put in. I'll show you where they show up on the PeopleSoft side, but I can go ahead and get my attachments and download them and then upload them into the requisition line. But when I'm ready to pull the cart over into PeopleSoft, I click Submit to Requisition. And all that's doing is copying the line items that were on the cart. It's copying them over into the PeopleSoft application. So you'll notice that my requisition summary gets updated with the 2 line items. Before I do anything else, you want to go to the Review and Submit page and go ahead and click on Save and Preview Approvals. Okay? That's one of the most common mistakes that when you're first starting off that people make is you try to start making a bunch of changes to the requisition before you're saving it. Okay? So before you try to change any of the chart fields or put any of the attachments on or put the vendor or do anything to the cart, go ahead, to the requisition, go ahead and click on Save and Preview and get the requisition ID number. Okay, and that's going to be the 10-digit number. If you don't follow that and then all of a sudden you realize that you're missing a requisition, there's a quick reference guide on how to resubmit a lost cart, and it walks you back through how to find that cart and pull it back in again. But the best thing to do is so that doesn't happen, so PeopleSoft doesn't time out or there's any issues with it, go ahead and bring it over and click Save and Preview so that you get the 10-digit requisition number. You get that, you'll notice the rec hasn't been routed to the approver yet, and then once you've got it and you're ready to make your changes, click on the Edit Requisition. And that just goes back to the Review and Submit page in the mode that you can go in and make a change. So now I've got my 2 lines, and you'll notice when we are looking at this requisition, these are the line items. That's the vendor that comes from the statewide contract. So we'll look at the next one, the non-catalog. It'll say best vendor. Okay. If I ever need to go back out to and take a look at the cart when I'm on this Review and Submit page, I can just click on the line description, and it'll actually take me back to the original cart. Okay. And I can see, and so if I forgot my attachments or something like that, I can click Proceed to Checkout and go get the attachments or open them up and then save them to my computer. Okay? But it's also real important, you're not going to submit this requisition again. Okay? You cancel the punch out. Because once you've pulled a cart over into PeopleSoft, you can't come back and edit the cart. Okay? You've got to go you've got to start a new requisition and go in and reassign the cart to someone else and make changes to it and basically do a new PeopleSoft requisition from that cart. Okay, so you don't ever want to submit it twice, or you'll get an error message back at PeopleSoft. I just punched out just so that I could see what the cart looked like if I wanted to check the history or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and just cancel the punch out and come back into PeopleSoft. And again, I got back over to the cart just by clicking on the line description. So let's take a look at the budget chart fields that are on the line. I click this little arrow that says Expand Section, and you'll notice, we get this a lot, people think that there aren't any chart fields on the line. Well, if you click on the Chart Fields To tab, you'll see all of my default chart fields, okay, as a requester. So every requester, I'm logged in as T Hudson 01, you provided all of us with default set of chart fields. So every time you enter a new rec, whoever the requester is, they're going to have a default set. So if I had one line, I could just come here and code it. If I had a lot of lines that need to go to a different account or department or whatever, I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. But just so you understand, every single line gets your default set of chart fields. And I could come in and change them manually, line by line, if I wanted to, and change those. Or, so I'm going to go ahead and just make that change on the account. And then, but I can also select the line and click on the Modify Line Shipping Accounting page. So this page comes up. The first thing you want to do when this page comes up is load the values from your default. So these are going to be all of the defaults that you entered. You've got your account, and then if I click on the Chart Fields To tab, I can see all of my other chart field defaults that come in. And I'm just going to change the account number. Also, there's always confusion around the top part of this page. you'll notice that the vendor's blank and there's no buyer and there's no category code or NIGP code. This is just the override page. So there are actually codes already on the line. This is just where you could come and change all of them. But since this is a statewide contracted vendor, we know that OfficeMax is on the line. I don't need to go change the vendor. But the one for the non-catalog item, a best vendor, I'm going to show you how to do that when I pull that card in. So I've just added the chart fields, and of course I could come here if I need to do a 50-50 split, change that percent to 50, and then add a line and key in those chart fields as well, okay, if I needed to split it across multiple distributions. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this as a 1. If I needed to change the ship to on this, I could change the ship to, and this would change it on all of the line items that I had selected. So once I've got those changes, I click Apply. It's going to ask if I want to make the changes to all distribution lines. I'm typically going to say OK after that. And you'll notice now that it has changed the ship to on line 1, and then if I expand underneath line 2, it's changed the ship to on that line as well. I've still got my vendor OfficeMax on there. Also, in the comments section, you'll notice that it has put in the comments section, it's copied the cart name from the original cart, and it's also going to say if there was an attachment, it's going to say it has internal attachment. If I open this up, it's just basically saying, hey, there was an attachment over on that cart. You don't have to keep this. You don't have to keep this comment on PeopleSoft. It's just letting you know. You can delete it out. Then you'll also notice that there are whatever comments they put on the cart in the general section have also copied over to this comments field. If the purchase order is going to be charged to a P card, then you will have a card number here, is where you can apply the card to this requisition. So you'll notice when I pick the card number, it checks the box that I'm using the procurement card, and it checks the use procurement card on all of the lines. If I don't want to use a P card, then I just don't select it. It's defaulted off, but if you're going to pay for this order, this is just a requisition now, but once the purchase order gets created, it's going to end up on paying with a P card, and you would just select the card number. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Preview. And you'll notice right now it's not routed. When I'm ready for the first approver to get a notification to approve the requisition, then I click on Submit. And that's going to send an email notification to the approver that they have a requisition to approve. Okay? You will get an email notification when the final approver, so if you've got, like this is an example of just a one person approving the requisition. When this person approves the requisition, it will send me as the requester an email notification that my requisition is approved. So right now this requisition is a pending status and the budget status is set to not checked. Okay, before a requisition can become a purchase order, the budget status has to be valid. So once it's pending approval, you can click on Check Budget. And we always get a question of who should run the budget checking process on the requisition. And typically we say it's whoever's coding the requisition to the budget chart field. So once it's been coded, whoever's responsible for that, sometimes it's the requester, sometimes it's going to be one of the approvers. So whoever's responsible for for coding the requisition, go ahead and after you've entered it, go ahead and run the budget checking status. But it does have to be pending approval before you run budget checking on it. And again, it's not pre-encumbering any funds. It's just making sure that that's a valid budget combination. Okay, so it doesn't mean that necessarily that there's money available for that. That'll happen when the budget checking runs on the PO. This is just making sure it's a valid budget combination. So you'll now notice that this requisition is pending approval for the first approver, and it's in a valid budget checking status. Okay. And again, I talked about that earlier in the webinar, but when that cart got pulled over into PeopleSoft, the shopper got notification that their cart has been processed, and so that just tells them that it's now entered the PeopleSoft application. Okay. So, are there any questions on how to pull over the cart for the statewide contracted item? I'm now going to after these questions, I'm going to show how to pull over the cart for a non-catalog item. I don't see any questions on PeopleSoft on the requisition side. So I'm going to go back now from this page. I can either go back to my Managed Requisition page. This Managed Requisition page is a great page to see the status of all of your requisitions and where what current status that they're in. Okay. So for example, it defaults with a date range of 7 days prior and up to today's date. Shows me all of the requisitions and what it shows the 10-digit number, their current status. Like these two are pending someone. My requisition 924, a PO has been created. It'll eventually go to PO's dispatch. Once the PO is dispatched, I can open it up and I can see the process. Here was the rec. Here's the approvals that happened on it, and now here's the PO. Okay. There's lots of things I can do from this page. I can come in. I could cancel the requisition so. For example, let's say something gets denied and it's not going to become a purchase order. I can come to this Managed Requisition page and cancel it. If I needed to make a change, let's say I forgot an attachment, I can come back and edit the requisition. I choose the drop down and click on Go. It's going to tell me it's pending approval. If I change something, it might start it back over. But I can edit it from the Managed Requisition page. It just basically opens up the requisition on the Review and Submit page. So I'm going to go back now. From the Managed Requisition page, there's also a way to click on Create Requisition, or I can just do it from the menu on the left-hand side. Down at the bottom, I can click on Create New Requisition. So I'll click on Add Items and Services. Click on the Web tab, and then click back on the Georgia Virtual Catalog. Again, now I have action items, carts assigned to me, and I'm going to take this second cart, make it my active cart. Again, I can, if I needed to add a line item to this, I could add another non-catalog item to it just by clicking on this. It just opens up the form to the same supplier that was done before. Okay, I could return the cart from this page back to the shopper if I needed to. I click on Proceed to Checkout. This is a document that I want to download, so I'm going to go ahead and just click and open it up. Save it to my hard drive. And I'm going to show you how to attach it to the requisition line in just a minute. Go ahead and close that, because again, the attachments don't pass from the cart over into PeopleSoft. If I need to make any changes on the cart, I just click on Edit or to this top section if I need to add anything to it. Again, these are the comments that are going to pass over into the requisition. If I need to put more attachments, I can do that. Again, I can look at the history of the cart. Again, it's going to show me how it got assigned from State Shopper 1 to State Approver 1, and then from State Approver 1 to T Hudson, which is me, logged in as the requester. I'll now submit it over into PeopleSoft. And again, that's just copying the line back over from SyQuest application into PeopleSoft. First thing I want to do is click on Review and Submit, and then Save and Preview. Always want to do that every time I pull in a cart. Otherwise, I'll need to use the quick reference guide for how to resubmit a cart. Go back into Edit Requisition. One of the fields I didn't talk about earlier when I did the statewide contract purchase is this requisition name. This is a name. This name field is one that you can use to search for particular requisitions. So if you wanted to put, for example, the who the original shopper was up in this field, you can do that. The requisition, again, it's just a field that you can use for your purposes of searching and just identifying what the requisition was for. Again, all of the line items, when they get added, get my default set of chart fields, or the requester's default set. I can come in and key them directly on this Chart Fields 2 tab. If I needed to change something or split them out, okay, I can scroll over to the right, look at my plus button to add multiple lines. If I needed to change the fund or the department, okay, I do that. The attachments go on the requisition line level, so it's this comment button. So I'll click on the bubble. Put in a comment, and then I add the attachment. Choose the file, go out to my hard drive, and upload the attachment. Add multiple attachments. I just keep on clicking Add Attachment. There's something else that needs to be added to the requisition. Now you'll notice that this requisition line is to best vendor. So this is where if they gave you who the vendor is, and I'm just going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to take off this note about the attachments and delete that out. This is where I could come and say, all right, this needs to go to AAA Pest Control. Okay. So to change the vendor on this line, I could select it. Excuse me. I could either select it and go to the Modify Line Shipping page. If I come to this page, I do have to load my values. Okay. So I can put the account, and then I can do a lookup. So if I know the 10-digit vendor ID, I can key it in here, or I can do a lookup and search for the vendor from this page, doing a name search. Okay, once it finds it, I select it, and it brings back the correct vendor on the line. and then it would apply that vendor to all the lines on the requisition. So I won't go through that whole process, but basically I would just pick the vendor and it would assign it on each one of the lines. I've got my attachment. Again, if I forget something and I need to look back at the cart, I just click on the line description and it opens up the cart again back over in the SyQuest application. I can get my attachment if I need to. Again, I won't submit the requisition again. I'll just cancel the punch out. So when I'm ready for this to go through the approval process now, I'll click on Save and Preview Approvals. And then I submit the requisition. And since I've modified the chart fields, I'm going to go ahead and check the budget. While that's running, are there any questions on how to pull the carts in as requisitions? Okay. Don't see any questions. So, so now I'm going to log in as the approver. I'm going to sign out, log in as the approver. Two different ways to get to requisitions that are pending approval. You can go to your work list, and you'll see the requisitions that I just did, 296 and 297. You can click on the first one, and it opens up the requisition in the approval page. You'll notice the approval page has the vendor and the NIGB code and the description of the NIGB code. You'll also see the statewide contract number here. This training environment doesn't have everything linked to the contract, so it doesn't come in on the contract field. But you'll see the statewide contract number. If I wanted to take a look at where these are coded against the budget, I can do Select All and then click on View Line Details. And that opens up the requisition, really a printable version of the requisition, but it also includes all of the chart field values that that are coded on the requisition. Oops, my pop-up blocker was blocked. Need to turn that off. So it just shows the requisition and all of the header level comments, and then each of the lines, and then the chart fields that the line is coded to. If I need to make a change, I can edit the rec by clicking on the Edit Requisition. It just takes me back to the review and submit page. So I'm going to go ahead, enter my approval comment. So when the approver, since I'm the final approver and the requisition status now goes to approved, it sends the requester an email that the requisition is approved, and so I'm going to show you as a requester/buyer how to find the requisition and source it into a purchase order. Let me show you, I said there were two ways to get to the requisition approved, to approve the requisition. I can go from the work list or also go under e-procurement. manage requisition approvals, and just do a search. And it's going to show me all recs that are currently pending my approval. So here was 927. You can open it up and take a look at what the line items are on it and select it. And then if I wanted to see the attachments, they're in the comment section. I'll just click on that, and I'll be able to, I can view the attachments from this page. And then, so if I'm ready to approve this requisition, I'll just go ahead and click on Approve. If I deny it, it goes back to the requester. It makes me put in comments about why I'm denying it. It goes back to the requester where they can edit the rec from the Manage Requisition page and make changes to it and then resubmit it. Or they can, you can tell them, if they don't want to order it, you would deny it and then go to the Manage Requisition page and cancel it. So any questions on how to do requisition approval? All right, so any questions on that? So if you are a buyer, you're going to stay on for this next section. I'm going to show you how to take these two requisitions and stage them so that they become purchase orders. I'm going to log out. Actually, I am the Peacock is also the buyer. So if you're a buyer and you want to see a list of all the requisitions, you do get an email notification if you're the requester and the buyer. The requester gets the notification that the requisition was approved. But there's also a pagelet that you can put on your home page that will show you all approved requisitions that need to be sourced into purchase orders. So to add that pagelet to your home page, when you're on the home page, you click on the content, and you will see under TGMP pagelet, you're going to choose the ePro Recs to be sourced pagelet. And then you click on this personalized layout. So this is one-time setup that you'll need to do. And I like to have it default to 2 columns, but I like to have mine set up to 3 columns. And you'll notice that this is the pagelet set up. I'm just going to take it, and then I want to move it over 2 columns into the right column. And then I'll click on Save. So this pagelet, the first time you log in, it's going to say it needs to be customized. And it's just like running a query where you have to put in the parameters. So you'll click on this icon that says Customize the Pagelet, click on it, and you'll put in your business unit. If you want all origins, which most of you want to see that, you're just going to put in the % for the wild card. And if you want to see more than 20 rows at a time, if you're a big college, you might have a lot of recs out there, then you could increase it to 30 or 50 or whatever for the number of rows that will be out there. And then you click on Save. And so when you're working during the day, this pagelet, every time you click on the home page or every time you log into PeopleSoft, it's going to run this little query, this little pagelet, to tell you all of your requisitions that are currently sitting out in an approved status. And it'll show you, here's the rec number, here's the date it was put in, this is the date it got approved, this was that requisition name field, this is the origin, this was who the requester was, and the amount, and then the current budget checking status, okay? So sometimes you may see, like, for example, this requisition is approved, but it's not budget checked, so I can't pull it into a purchase order until this is valid. But if I knew if I've got the rec number, I could go over to the Manage Requisition page and run budget checking on it to get it to valid so that I could stage it to become a PO, okay? So I'm going to take this first requisition, number 926, get that requisition number, and I'm ready to stage it because it's been approved, so I'm going to stage it in order for it to become a purchase order. So I'll click on Purchasing, Purchase Orders, Stage Source Request, and then click on requisition selection. And I like to make this page, I like to add this page to my favorites. So I just choose, click on up at the top, add to favorites, and say OK. And then that link will be underneath my favorites. So I don't have to drill down to this navigation every time. I'll just come underneath my favorites, requisition selection, and this page will come up. All right, so I know the requisition number that I want to choose, which is 926. So I could either cut and paste it from the pagelet, or if I do a lookup on this field, I'll see all of the requisitions that are currently sitting out there approved and that can be turned into purchase orders. So I just select it. Now click on search. And then these are the two line items. Okay. If I do include and save and then include and save, that would create two different purchase orders for this one requisition. Most of the time you don't want to do that. Okay. You want to do select all, which clicks both of the lines, and then go ahead and just click on save. And so now that requisition 926 is not going to bring up any lines because it's now gone to the staging page. So a process is going to run every 30 minutes. I think it's at 15 and 45 after the hour, runs the auto sourcing process runs, and it picks up those requisitions and creates purchase orders for them. Okay? And I'll show you how to find your POs in just a minute. Okay? I'm going to come back to my home page. If I refresh this pagelet, you'll notice that 926 has now come off because I have staged it to become a purchase order. And now I want to go get 927 and turn it into a purchase order. So again, I can go under My Favorite and choose Requisition Selection. Paste in the requisition number and click on Search. All right, so this is something that's kind of common. You notice that I intentionally did this on the requisition. I didn't change the vendor. Okay, I left it to be best vendor. Well, you're not going to do purchase orders to best vendor. Okay, you shouldn't do POs to best vendor. Okay, but so you can either change the vendor on the requisition side, or you can do it on this requisition selection page. So for example, I could do, if I know who the vendor is, I can do a lookup on this vendor ID. Okay, and let's just say I know that it's, I'll do a wildcard for pest. And I want to use A&E Pest Control. I just select it. And you'll notice now that it changes it from best vendor to the correct vendor. But if I have a multi-line cart, then I would have to do that on each one of the lines. Okay? So now I've said who I want the vendor, the PO vendor to be. I just select the line, and I click on Save. And now it's been staged as well. So again, the process will run, it'll pick it up, and it'll create the purchase order. So are there any questions on how to stage requisitions to become purchase orders? All right. So now, once the process runs, and again, it runs at 15 and 45 after the hour, and we're not going to wait on that to run. But I've already got a purchase order that I've got created. So I'm going to click on Purchasing, Purchase Orders, and then Add Update POs. So I come to define an existing value. So your purchase orders, when they first get created, they're all going to be in an open status. Okay? So I can do a search for that. Something that I like to do is say, and I can put my buyer ID in here as well. And then I can save this search criteria. So I could just, for example, I could name this My Open POs. And so instead of having to come and do a search, I can now just pick it from this drop-down. So I can clear that, but I can also say, all right, My Open POs. It brings all of those fields that I put in, that I saved, they come into the search page. And it opens up. Now I have, this is My Open PO that got created. I just have one, so it automatically opens it up. So you'll notice that this PO is in an open status and it's not checked. The dispatch method is set to EDX, okay? So if it is a statewide contract vendor of something ordered from the catalog, the dispatch method will be EDX. You shouldn't change that from EDX to print, okay? Because we want this purchase order to electronically go back to the supplier, okay? So once it's approved and valid, we run a process that will pick it up and send it over. If you need a copy of this PO, then just click on the View Printable Version, okay? And it will run a process, and it will put a copy of that requisition underneath Reporting Tools, Report Manager, and Administration. It's still processing right now, but if I need to get a copy of an EDX PO, I print a printable version of that PO. Okay, so now this is run. I just click on it, and I get a copy of the hasn't quite posted yet. Sometimes it takes it a couple minutes to finish. Still not posted yet. I'll come back to it in just a second. While it's still, it hasn't posted in there yet. So I'm going to come back to this PO. I want to find my open PO. I'll still come in this PO and click on my header details, just like I do a normal PO. I still have to come in and put the PO type. So this would be a statewide convenience contract PO type. If I needed to see the requisition, you'll notice in the PO reference, the requisition number's in there, but if I can click back on this requisition link to see the requisition number that this PO came from. Go ahead and click this, the approval button. That's some of you that will go automatically to approved, and you can budget check it, and then the process will pick it up. Some of you have a PO amount or chart field approval on your PO, so your approver will approve that, and then of course you've got to get the budget status from not checked. You've got to run the budget checking on it once it's approved to get that valid. Okay. So again, the EDX POs stay approved and valid, and they get picked up and sent to the supplier. And then once they get picked up, you will receive a confirmation that they have received your PO. Okay, you as the buyer will receive a confirmation they received a PO. The original shopper also gets notified when an EDX PO gets sent over to SyQuest as well. Okay, POs for non-catalog items and non-statewide contract vendors, there's not a way to, it doesn't notify the shopper that they have a PO. You would need to either email them a copy of the PDF version of that or send them an email of their PO number if that's something that your college needs to get back to the original shopper for one reason or another. If your PO, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a non-catalog item PO. for example, let me take a look at this. A PO that's to a non-statewide contract supplier. You'll notice for the non-statewide contract suppliers that the dispatch method will be print, and so you'll do that. You'll handle those the same way that you always have. You'll create a PDF. You'll still dispatch. Use the dispatch button on this page for POs that are non-EDX. Something that's real common that happens a lot of times on EDX POs, people change them to print and then dispatch them so that they can get a copy of it. But because the status already goes to dispatch when you do that, then it doesn't EDX that order over to the supplier. You would have to get us to EDX that over to the supplier as well. So again, if you just need a copy of the PO, then you would click on this View Printable Version. And it doesn't have the signature on it or anything like that. It's just got the PO number and the line item and the ship to and all of that information. It doesn't have a signature on it because it's an electronic PO. We'll come back out to my this report manager and get a copy of the printable version. I'm going to go in and log into production real quick and take a look at one, because this training environment isn't doing it. So I'm just going to go find an EDX PO. So you'll notice this is this is a PO that's been dispatched via EDX today. It left at EDX. If I need to get a copy of it, I just click on this View Printable Version. It spins for a little while, and then I just come out to my Reporting Tools Report Manager, and on this Administration tab, once it posts, so I can just click on this link and it'll launch the PDF of the PO, and it'll say where it was shipped to and who the vendor was. This one actually was charged to a P card, and again, it won't have a signature field on it, but it'll list out all of the line items. Is there any questions on how to do the PO process for the carts? All right, again, the webinar's been recorded, and we will, if you're on one of the core teams, then we'll start our daily calls to go through any questions you have as you go through and take the carts and process them. So any questions you've got, just make sure, if you don't want to wait for the calls to bring up something, make sure you email Rick or I your questions and what issue you're having. Again, we'll send out, once I get this processed, the link will get posted, and we'll send that out to everybody so you can watch it again. But thanks for your time today. If you got any questions, just reach out to us. Thank you.